Hello friends, welcome to Easy Nurse, where nursing education made easy. So here I am today to tell about your exam preparation. Okay, and with me, whoever is prepared, whoever is not prepared, whoever is not even touched the book, they can also study and they can get passed and with a good marks. Okay, so today I will talking about anatomy and physiology. So as you guys know, this is a kind of a difficult subject than other subject in first and second semester, isn't it? So in this session I will simplify all of the topics, okay, so that you just don't have to you just don't have to remember all the things, but whatever or from wherever the question will come, you will able to answer those questions. Okay, so just give me some thumbs up at least, so I can understand you guys are listening. Okay, and in between the session, whether if you have any kind of difficulties to understand or any voice problem or anything, okay, you have confusion or question with, you can ask me. I will be very happy to answer you guys. Okay, so do not worry of the anatomy physiology subject. I'm gonna take care of it. So further any delay, let's just start this topic. So before starting, we should at least know, right, that what is anatomy, what is the meaning of physiology and all. Okay, so just to give you a reminder, we will talk about anatomy and physiology. So think about a mixer grinder. Okay, one mixer grinder is actually a working, just think it as a human body. Okay, so now the mixer grinder is come with the motor, okay, the body of the mixer grinder, one cable will be there will be separate parts where we will put substances, right? So the structure, the whole structure will be called as anatomical structure. Now how the body or how the mixer grinder is working will be called as physiology, same as for our body, human body. So all the structure, organs, cells, okay, the structure of the human body we will call it as anatomy, and the working part or the function of that organs will be called as physiology. So anatomy tells what a body looks like and physiology tells us how it actually works. So as for example, I can say we know how lungs look like, right? We know how lungs look like. So the look of it, okay, the structure, the size, the weight, it's all tell about the anatomy. Okay, it's under the anatomy. And how with this we are breathing, okay, we are inhaling and exhaling the gas, it will come under physiology. So this is about the anatomy and physiology. So our body is made up of tiny elements, and to specify that, we have exactly 26 elements. Okay, so our body is made up of 26 elements. In between that, the major and the most important elements will be oxygen, carbon dioxide, hydrogen and nitrogen. Okay, so these are the main elements. So our body is made up of cell, tissues, organs and system. Okay, so cells are the most tiniest unit, okay, most smallest unit of the body, and cell will be forming the tissues will be forming organs, and with all the organs and all the other parts of the body, our body will be building one system, and whole together all the system will called as human body. So now to know about that, we have to know about two terms that are stroma and parenchyma. What is stroma? Stroma is actually the part, the structure of it, the structure of or scaffold that holds everything together. Okay, like our body is called as stroma, and parenchyma, the active part of which organs real work. Okay, so now if you see kidney is called as kidneys, other cells and all, everything is called as stroma, but nephrons are the working unit of the kidney, so it will be called as parenchyma. So this is the difference. I hope you guys have understood. Okay, if you don't understand anything or if you want me to repeat any kind of things, okay, just put a message. Okay, so this is about anatomy and physiology. Let's talk about human body. So our human body is a very complex, well organized structure made up of different levels, okay, from small elements to large functional system that maintain our life balance. Okay, so there are some key highlights we have to mention. So in our body we have body cavities, organs and systems. So what is cavity actually? Cavity is a hollow space or organ made of by tissues and all in body to protect, support and give space or separate internal organs. Okay, the major cavities of us include our cranial cavity, which holds our brain, our abdominal cavity, which holds the stomach, intestine, liver, pancreas and all, and lastly our pelvic cavity, which holds ovaries, uterus and all. Okay, so these are the body cavities. Next, move to organs. Organs, we know these are actually the group of specialized tissue that perform the specific function. Okay, for example, heart pumps the blood, the lungs exchange the gases. Okay, then lastly body system. So we have several organs work together as a system and perform major role life processes such as circulation, digestion, respiration and reproduction, and each system has a distinct but interrelated role which will be maintaining the homeostasis of our body. So this is about the body. Next, move on to the cell. So what is cell? As I have already told and you guys also know, cell is actually the smallest unit of the human body. So a cell is a smallest structural and functional unit of the human body and every organ will start from it. Okay, so what are the things we have to know little about cell? See, from this, you know, 1 mark question or MCQ question especially, it have come 1-2 times also. So the first discovered cell have been discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665 in cork. Okay, in cork you have seen a cork in the bottle, right? Wine bottles and on, or in any types of liquor. Okay, so in the cork Robert Hooke have been discovered dead cell. Try to remember it. First dead cell have been recovered. If the question have been asked, what is the first cell that have been recovered or by whom, that will be a dead cell that is discovered by Robert Hooke. But first living cell is discovered by Anton van Leeuwenhoek. Okay, Anton van Leeuwenhoek. So he have discovered it around 1674. So now there are 2 types of cell. Okay, according to the structure, that is prokaryotic and eukaryotic. What is prokaryotic? There will be simple cell with less organelles and no nucleus, whereas the eukaryotic cells have a complex structure with the nucleus, example as human cells. The largest cell in our body, if we consider female, then it will be ovum. Okay, and in the smallest cell of human is actually sperm. Okay, but if you ask what is the largest cell in the men, it will be obviously the neurons. Okay, so the cell structure we will discuss it. So the cell is actually structured or prepared with cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus and all other organelles. Okay, so what is organelles? In the smallest unit like cell, there are some particles which work like organs in between the cell. Okay, for them we will call it as organelles. So organelles of human cells and their function we will discuss. So each cell have tiny organs called as organelles, each with a specific job that will keep the cell alive and working efficiently. Okay, so here you can see the cell structure. Okay, so it have Golgi body, ribosome, lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum, DNA, nucleus, mitochondria, okay, cell membrane and cytoplasm. So first of all we will we'll discuss about the most important part, which is nucleus. Nucleus is what? It will provide DNA. It will carry forward the DNA in the upcoming generated cell. Okay, it is the control center of the actual cell. It stores DNA and regulate all cell activities. Okay, so you can say this is the manager of the cell. Okay, nucleus. Next is mitochondria. You have already heard about that so many times from the childhood. Okay, so this is called as powerhouse of the cell. Why it is called powerhouse of the cell? Because it produces ATP. Okay, next is endoplasmic reticulum. So this is actually the nucleus. Okay, and the mitochondria is this one. Okay, here we have two mitochondria. Next is endoplasmic reticulum. Now in a endoplasmic reticulum, it's actually have two types. Okay, here you can see this is the endoplasmic reticulum. If you see closely, this is the rough side. Okay, so we will call it as rough endoplasmic reticulum, and in between this we have smooth side as well, which we will call smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Now these two have different works. The rough endoplasmic reticulum actually makes protein, okay, or synthesized protein, whereas the smooth one actually makes lipids and detoxified the cells. Okay, so that is endoplasmic reticulum. Next is Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus is actually the package. It will package and transport the protein. Here you can see the Golgi apparatus. Next is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is actually the fluid. Okay, the fluid in the cell which holds organelle and support the reaction. Next is lysosome. It is actually a breakdown waste and whole cell particle. You can also call lysosome a self-death package, okay, or a suicidal bag. When a cell holds, some toxin substances and all, and the lysosome is seeing the toxic substance is present in the cell, but the cell is not able to throw it away, then lysosome will produce some toxins, okay, and it will make the cell dead. Necrosis will happen. So lysosome will actually break down waste and old cell particles. Next is rhizosome, which will build protein, and cell membrane, which protect the cell and controls enters and leaves. Enters and leave in the sense the micronutrient, the water, or the liquids, whatever is coming inside the cell and going outside from the cell, like different waste particles and all, it will be all controlled by the cell membrane. So I hope you guys have understood, right? If any confusion is there, just put a message. Okay, so this is about the organelles of the cell. Now cell membrane have a different priorities. Okay, so cell membrane is actually look like this. Okay, I will explain it definitely. Okay, so these things are called as bilipid. If you zoom, okay, in microscope, if you see, powerful microscope, if you see, the cell membrane will look like this. Okay, cell membrane. So in between that we have bilipids and protein, with which the cell membrane is actually made. Okay, so there are different types of scientists that have proved about the cell membrane, how it is prepared, and also we have fluid mosaic model, sandwich model, and all. So what is fluid mosaic model? Let's discuss. So this is the model which describes the plasma membrane as a phospholipid bilayer with proteins embedded like mosaic. Okay, and the lipids will provide the fluidity while the proteins act as a channel. Now here is a twist. So the proteins we have seen, right, in between it will take the minerals from outside to inside, like potassium, sodium, okay, calcium, H2O, everything they will take, and they will transport the other substances from cell inside to outside. Okay, so the proteins of the cell membrane actually work as a transporter in between the cell. Okay, so the lipids will provide the fluidity, and the proteins will act as a channel. It reports or enzyme and allowing the selective permeability. So this is about the fluid mosaic model. It is very, very important. It have came too many, there are too many repetition for this question. Okay, fluid mosaic model. So try to remember it. Next is apoptosis or necrosis. As I have already told what necrosis, it is cell death actually. Okay, so apoptosis is actually programmed energy dependent cell death without any kind of inflammation, and necrosis is actually uncontrolled cell death due to injury causing cell swelling and inflammation. I'll give you a simple example. Think of a knife. Okay, a knife continuously you are using for 1 year. Okay, and the knife became very blunt, and one knife the same exactly same another knife you have, but you are not using it, you are keeping it, okay, without protection and all. So what will happen? The moisture, okay, the dust and all, it will destroy the knife and it will become blunt. So same for the cell. Because of some toxin, if the cell death will happen, it can be with inflammation or cannot be. Okay, but because of the toxins or outer substance before the lifetime period of the cell, if the cell will die, we will call this as necrosis. And because of the the year have passed and all, okay, or some days have passed, the cell lifetime have been over, then if the cell will die, then we will call it as apoptosis. Okay, try to remember the difference. Okay, our next question is lysosome in autophagy. I have already told how it works. So lysosome is actually contain the hydrolytic enzyme which will digest worn out organelles or damaged cell components and maintaining the cellular homeostasis. It's process called as autophagy. Okay, or autophagy. Next is intercalated disc. What is intercalated disc? Now see, if you see heart, okay, heart is made up of myocardium. Okay, now in myocardium there cells will be there. Now in between each cells there is a layer, okay, or there is a connecting space which will connect each of the cells. The connecting part is called as intercalated disc. Now intercalated discs are specialized junction and connection between the cardiac cell, allowing the synchronized contraction and rapid electrical impulse which will transmit across the myocardium. Okay, the last question is neurons versus neuroglia. So we know neurons are non-reproducible. Okay, they will, like from the childhood, if the neurons are 50, it will stay up to the death 50. Okay, but neuroglia are growing cells. So neurons are conduct nerve impulses and are existable. But the neuroglia cells provide support, protection and nutrition to neurons but do not conduct impulses. Okay, so this is the main difference. Let's move on to the actual part, which are systems. So one by one we will discuss each and every system, what are the important topics that from that can come and all. Okay, so first we will discuss about nervous system. So what do you know about nervous system? So we have two nervous system, peripheral nervous system and central nervous system. Peripheral nervous system include all of the nerves that are spread inside our body. Okay, like in the palm and in the palm of the in the sole of the shoes and all. Okay, so in whole body and skin, whatever the nerves are there present in the body is called as peripheral nervous system. And next is central nervous system. So central nervous system is actually including brain and the brainstem, which is also called as the spinal cord. So let's discuss about that. First we will discuss about the brain. So you can see here the brain structure. So brain structure have different kind of main parts, okay, which called cerebellum, okay, pons, brain stem. So first we will discuss about cerebrum. So what is cerebrum? Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain which will divide into two hemispheres. It is responsible for thoughts like whatever we are thinking in mind and all, the language, the memory, okay, and the voluntary actions. Any kind of voluntary action will be controlled through the cerebrum. Next is cerebellum. What is cerebellum? So it is located in the back of the cerebrum, okay, and it located primarily coordinates the voluntary movement, balance and posture of your body. Next is temporal lobe. So now what's about the temporal lobe? It is actually situated in the cerebrum, essential for processing auditory, information, memory, language and comprehension. Next is frontal lobe, which is the frontmost part of the brain or cerebrum. It involved in planning, problem solving, decision making, temperature regulation, pain perception and motor control. The next part is hypothalamus, a small structure located within the brain, okay. So here you can see this is hypothalamus and it regulates hunger, appetite, thirst, sleep, body temperature and hormone secretion. Next is brain stem. Here you can see this is the brain stem. So this is actually connects the cerebrum with the vital center, okay, and it controls functions like heart pump, heart rate, breathing and sleep cycle. Lastly we will see about the cerebellum. I have already discussed also, but this is very important, okay, so remember it. So it is coordinate on the movement, balance, posture and involved in motor, learning and muscle coordination. So this is about the nervous system. Let's talk about what are the cranial nerves that are present inside the brain, okay. It is actually related to central nervous system, okay. So we have 12 total number of cranial nerves, which include olfactory, optic, oculomotor, cochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear, then glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory and hypoglossal. So if you arrange it, it will come O3, T2, A, F, V2, G and H. So it is O, T, A, F, V, G, H. O have 3, T have 2, A have 2 and V have 2. This is the simplest formula to remember, okay? O, T, A, F, G, F, V, G, H. So O is for olfactory, optic and oculomotor. Olfactory actually helps to sense the smell. Optic helps for the vision. Oculomotor is for the eye movement and the pupil constriction. Then it comes to T2, which is actually cochlear and trigeminal. Cochlear helps to move the eye downward and laterally, okay, and trigeminal helps for the facial sensation, chewing muscles. So if you look, okay, or you observe, these three nerves actually helps for the whole eye movements and eye function, okay, optic, oculomotor and cochlear. Trigeminal, next is trigeminal, which is the facial sensation, chewing of muscles, okay, while we are chewing, we are eating, okay, or we are biting, it's all controlled by the trigeminal nerve. Next is abducens. What is abducens? It is the lateral eye movement. Again, this is also related to eye, and accessory, which actually do the shoulder and neck movement. So 2 A's are completed. Next is facial nerve. For facial nerve, which is helps us for the facial expression, taste, anterior or 2/3 of the tongue. Vestibulocochlear, which will helps in hearing and balance. Then glossopharyngeal, again it is the 1/3 of the tongue and it helps in swallowing and tasting. The vagus nerve is actually for the heart or digestion and voice. The accessory nerves is for the shoulder and neck movement, already told, and hypoglossal, which is for the tongue, which is there for the tongue movement. Okay, how we twist our tongue, how we talk and all. Okay, so these are the 12 of our cranial nerves. Next we will come to neuron. So neuron is actually the functional unit, okay, the most important functional unit of the nervous system. So neuron is a functional unit of the nervous system that transmit the electrical impulses. Okay, so here you can see the neuron structure. It have a body, cell body. Okay, this is the cell body. Now they have different things like cell body, nucleus. Okay, these small branches are called as dendrite. Okay, this is axon. Axon is made of the Schwann cell, myelin sheath, node of Ranvier, and axonal terminal. Okay, so let's discuss about the structure. So first is cell body, then it will come dendrite, axon, axon terminals, and nodes of Ranvier. So what is the cell body? Cell body is also called as soma or stroma. It contains the nucleus and other organelles, okay, which maintains the cell function and metabolic activities of the cell. Dendrites are like the branches or extension. It also helps with the receive signals from other neurons towards the cell body. Next is axon, which is actually a long fiber that will carry the impulses away from the cell body. Okay, so these are actually accepting the impulses, and the axon is actually, you know, trying to pass the impulses towards the from the cell body. Okay, so it may be covered with myelin sheath for the faster transmission. It's not that obvious that always the axon will be covered with myelin sheath. Okay, then axon terminals or synaptic endings, these are called as synaptic endings. Okay, so this transmits signals to other neurons, muscle, or any kind of glands and organs. The next come nodes of Ranvier. In between the Schwann cell, Schwann cells are covered with the myelin sheath. Okay, so in between that, wherever gap will come, it will called as nodes of Ranvier. So the gaps in the myelin sheath will actually helps to speed up the impulse and conduction of the impulse. So this is all about the structure of neurons. Now let's see what are the functions are there. So it transmits the electrical impulses from one part of the body to the another voluntary movements. Then it coordinates with reflex sensation and communicate with muscle and gland for action. Okay, so I hope you have understood about the nervous system. Let's move on to the synapse. What is synapse? Synapse is between the two neurons. Okay, two junction of neurons is called as synapse. So it is the synapse is the junction between two neurons or between two neurons and the effector or like muscle and gland. Okay, here you can see. So what is the function of the synapse? Synapse is actually transmit the impulses chemically via the neurotransmitters. Okay, the chemicals that transfer the information or impulse called as neurotransmitter, or electrically. It ensures the directional flow of the signals, and it also allows the integration and modulation of nervous signals. Now we will talk about the covering. So we know the most of the organs are covered by one layer. So brain is covered by the meningeus layer. So it is the protective layer around brain and spinal cord. So in between this, like in between the meningeus layer, we have three parts: dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. Okay, so what is dura mater? Dura mater is actually the tough outer layer which will protect the brain from the venous sinuses. Okay, arachnoid mater is a web-like middle layer. Okay, it's a web-like in the sense like some thread and all. Okay, so it's a web-like middle layer. Subarachnoid space contains the CSF or cerebrospinal fluid and blood vessels. Okay, lastly we have pia mater, which is the delicate inner layer which adheres to brain surface and nourishes it. Okay, it will provide all the nutrients, all the nutritious element to the brain. Okay, so this is about the meninges. Next comes cerebrospinal fluid. So between meninges and brain there will be cerebrospinal fluid, which will help the brain to avoid any kind of friction due to any kind of trauma or physical harm. So it is a clear fluid in ventricles and subarachnoid space. The function is to cushion the brain and spinal cord for the mechanical protection, maintain the chemical stability and remove the waste, provides the buoyancy and reducing the brain weight. Okay, so this is function of the cerebrospinal fluid. How it forms? It produces by choroid plexus, absorbed via the arachnoid villi. So we have discussed about the nervous system. So this is all about it. Okay, we will move on to now skeletal system. Skeletal system, I know by hearing this you can feel like this is little difficult, but I promise you there is nothing difficult in this. Okay, I will explain you. I know it is very difficult to try to remember all the bone names, but at least you should know some bone names, okay, which are very important. Let's discuss it. So the skull bone is called as cranial bones. Okay, come to the neck. Okay, we have vertebra and the rib cage is made up with sternum, pectoral glide and rib cage. Now this is the clavicle part. Okay, this is our, or we will know the clavicle beauty. So this is actually the collarbone. Okay, the collarbone is called as the clavicle bone. And next we will come to the sternum. Sternum is actually the front joint, okay, the joint of the rib cage. Okay, it will stay in the middle. Then come vertebral column, which will after the spinal cord will finish. Okay, here we'll start with the vertebral column, which will end in the sacrum, in the pelvis. Okay, in the middle of the or after the belly, okay, after the abdomen, the part will come is waist, our waist, right? So that waist part we have our pelvic, okay, or pelvis. Then in the legs, let's come to legs. We have femur, okay, tibia and fibula. This is tibia and the thin bone is fibula. Okay, next we have tarsal, metatarsal and phalanges. In the hand, if we come, we have, just one second. Okay, so come to the hand, we have humerus, radius and ulnar. Radius is the thick bone and ulnar is the very small and thin bone. Okay, then we will come to the hand, our palm. Okay, carpal, metacarpal, phalanges. Okay, so this bone names you should always remember. Okay, so let's know what is skeletal system. So skeletal system is actually the framework of the body which is made up of bones and cartilage. If you see a house is made up of the pillars, okay, or the mechanical, that steel rods and all. Okay, so the rods are actually the bones. Okay, so here like that, the skull is the framework of the human body. Why it is there? Okay, why it is needed? So it needs, or these functions are support, to give the body a support, a structure, protects vital organs like skull, like brain. Okay, cranial bone actually, or the skull actually protects the brain. The pelvic organ is actually protect the our internal reproductive organs and all. Okay, so this helps to protect the vital organs. Next we'll come to enable movements. Okay, it helps us to move forward, backward, okay, to move our body parts such as with the muscles and joints. It stored the minerals like calcium and phosphorus, produces blood cell in bone marrow. Okay, so in between most of the bones there will be bone marrow, especially in femurs and this. Okay, we have bone marrow, so from that bone marrow the blood cell actually produces. Okay, so this is about the skeletal system. Now in the skeletal system, if we want to know about the bones, we have to know what are the types of the bones are present. So there are actually 5 types of bone, which is long bone, short bone, flat bone, sigmoid bone or irregular bones. So what is the long bone? The longest bone in our body is our femur, which is present in the upper thigh, okay, or the leg part. So longer than the wide, support to weight movement. Example as femur and humerus. Forearm, this is from the shoulder joint to the elbow joint. Okay, this is femur. Next is short bones, which is a cube shape. It provides the stability and some movement such as carpal and tarsals. Carpals, where it is present in the hand. Okay, it present in the hand, the square shaped bones. Okay, here, and in legs, in the toes. So the short bones examples are carpals and tarsal. Then flat bones. Flat bones, you can see thin and broad, protect organs and allow muscles for the attachment. Okay, whose are those? Skull bone, okay, or sternum in our chest, in between our chest, the middle of the rib cage. Next are irregular bones. Okay, which shapes will be very irregular. It is not a particular shape. The complex shape for special functions. Example as vertebra or facial bone. Okay, then sesamoid bone. What is sesamoid bone? It is actually embedded in tendons and reduce the frictions like patella. Where it is present in the knee joint. Okay, in the knee, to protect. See, if just consider this is as a leg. Okay, this is a leg of a person. So see, we have patella over here. Okay, why we have patella? If patella was not there, then we know knee joint help us to move it to the backward, right? We can fold our legs to backward. But if patella was not there as a protection layer, then it can be moved forward too. So what will happen if it move forward? We will not able to walk properly. Okay, so the leg can be swing here and there. So patella is there to help, and it is the example of sesamoid bone. Next is the joints. Okay, joints are very important. So joints are actually the points where two bones will meet and allow the movement. Okay, give me some example. Okay, just think fast about it and give me some example of bone joints. You can comment down in the section. I will be very happy to answer you guys. Okay, so the skeletal system actually have the joints where two bones will meet. Now the major examples of joints we can say shoulder joint, knee joint, elbow joint, wrist joint. Okay, these are the main example. So there are different types of joint. Let's discuss it. First we have fibrous joint, which is immovable joint. You can't move these joints. Okay, so in the skull especially we can see this kind of joint. Okay, in between the two temporal bones. Okay, in between two temporal bones and all, the sagittal joint is there. Okay, the and these bones will not be able to move. Okay, they are immovable joints. So bones are joined by fibrous tissue. Example as skull sutures. Next is cartilaginous joints which are slightly movable. Example as bones joined by the cartilage, such as vertebral joint. See, these are the vertebral joint. Next is synovial joints. So synovial joints are freely movable joints. These have the synovial cavity, capsule and fluid. Example as knee and elbow. Okay, freely movable. Next is synovial joint types. Now in between synovial joint we have different types, which are hinge and ball and socket, pivot joint, saddle joint, pedal joint and clinoid. So let's explain. So the pivot joint example is the clavicle bones. Okay, in between two clavicle bone, this joint is called as pivot joint. Why? It can be moved. Okay, like see, this is the part where I have my pivot joint. So as you have seen, we can move the joint, or the bones can be moved 180 degree. How? Let's see. From here to here, I can bend my neck. Okay, I can move my neck to see around 180 degree. Okay, or I can move my neck to 180 degree. So this is an example of pivot joint. Next, move to ball and socket joint. In the hip joint, especially where in the pelvis the humerus is attached, okay, with the joint is called as ball and socket joint. It can be like, think is this is the socket, this is the ball. So this is the hip part where actually the humerus is got attached. Now the leg can be moved like this. Okay, humerus, this is moving like this, but this can't be like properly. In some gymnasts you can see the joints are very flexible. For them it can be possible. Okay, so at least you can be able to move your femur like this. Okay, so that is the ball and socket joint. Next, come to clinoid joint, which is between the radius and the carpal bones. The radius and the carpal bones, sorry, this one, wrist. Next is plane joints, which is between the tarsal bones, okay, in the legs. Then saddle joint, which is between the trapezium carpal and the metacarpal bones. And lastly, hinge joint, which is present in the elbow. Okay, it can be moved like this. Okay, I can move it like this. So these are the different types of joint. Next is bones of the upper limb. These are very important, and this question have come at least 2-3 times. Okay, so try to remember it. From the shoulder, okay, from the shoulder till to the fingers. Okay, till to the fingers is called as upper limb. So it have different sections. First, in the shoulder girdle we have clavicle bone. I told you already here, clavicle bone. Then scapula. What is scapula? This is the triangular part. Okay, triangular part of our back is scapula. This is a triangular shape or flat shaped, you can already we have discussed, right? Flat shaped bone. Then in the arm it will come, in the forearm there will be humerus, sorry, in the upper arm there will be humerus, in the forearm it will be radius and ulna. In the wrist 8 carpal bones will be there, and in hands there will be 5 metacarpals and 14 phalanges. Now let's discuss about the joint. Okay, so 2 joints are very important for your exam, that is knee joint and shoulder joints. So see, sometimes there will be, they will be asked differentiate between these 2 joints. So that's why I have mentioned here. Let's discuss it. So a knee joint is actually a hinge joint, whereas a shoulder joint is ball and socket joint. Okay, because it can move 360 degree almost. Okay, then bones involved femur and tibula, also with the patella, but the shoulder joint is made up with humerus, scapula and glenoid cavity. Next, the movement. The movement in the knee joint is flexion, extension and slight rotation. In the shoulder joint, there will be flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, rotation and circumduction. Next, stability. What is stability? The stability in the knee joint is very stable and strong ligament. Okay, but in the shoulder joint, it is less stable. Why? The wide range of, and because it holds wide range of motion. Next, support structure. The knee joint support structure is ligaments such as ACL, PCL, MCL, LCL and MENC. Whereas in the shoulder joint, there will be rotator cuff muscle and ligaments which will be providing the support. The function of the knee joint is weight breathing movement while walking, running and upper limb and running. Okay, and for the shoulder joint, it will help the upper limb mobility, wide range of motion for hand positioning. Next, we will come to muscle or muscular system. The muscular system will help the bone to do more action. It will provide the energy. The muscle in between the muscular system, muscle contraction is a very important question. Okay, it is actually the process by which the muscle fiber will generate the tension and shorten, enabling the movement of bones and any kind of body part. So how it will go? Okay, first, sliding filament theory. First, what will happen? Nerve stimulation, where the motor neurons will releases the acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction, which will help the muscle membrane or the scleroderma to depolarize and generating action potential. After that, what will happen? The calcium will release. The action potential travels along the T-tubules and triggers the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release the calcium 2+ ions. Then actin myosin interrelation. The calcium binds or trophine will moving tropomyosin away from actin bindings and site. Next, it will come to myelin heads. The myelin heads will attach to actin. Okay, and this will come under the actin myosin interaction only. Okay, so the myosin heads will attach to the actin and forming the cross bridge. Then what it will do? It will help for the power stroke, where the myosin heads pivot will be pulling. Okay, will be pulling the actin filaments towards the center of the sacrometer, which called muscle shorten. Okay, muscle will be like this. It will become like this. Okay, if this is a muscle will be shortened and will become like this. Okay, so after that, what will happen? Relaxation, where the Ca2 will be pumped back in the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the tropomyosin will blocks the actin binding sites and muscle will be relaxed. Okay, so this is the whole procedure of muscle contraction. Remember, try to memorize, at least make a note about this. Okay, because many times it have came for exams. Now we have 4 types important muscles, okay, which have came in exam for 2 marks or 5 marks sometimes. Okay, so first is pelvic muscle. What is pelvic muscle? Pelvic muscle is present in the pelvis area. Okay, it supports the pelvic organs like bladder, uterus, rectum. It controls the urination and defecation. It also helps the female to assist in childbirth by supporting the birth canal. And the key muscles included here: levator ani and coccygeus. Okay, next is pectoralis muscle. The pectoralis muscle is moves arm forward, the flexion and shoulder. It abducts the arm towards the body and medially rotates the arm. It is also important for pushing movement. Okay, in the push movements. Next is shoulder muscles. In shoulder we have deltoid, okay, rotator cuff muscle. Deltoid muscles will abduct the arm and raises the sideway. Next is rotator cuff muscle, which is actually supranteus, infranteus, okay, teres minor and subcapularis. These muscles will help to stabilize the shoulder joint, rotate the arm, internal and external rotation. Okay. Lastly, we have 4 major limb muscles, which are bicep, quadriceps and hamstrings. The biceps here are actually flexes the elbow to bend the arms. Then quadriceps, which will here it will be present. Okay, so extend, sorry, not here, in the leg. Okay, so it will extend the knee, straighten in the leg. And lastly, hamstring, which will flex the knee bent leg and extend the hip. So these are the main muscles of musculoskeletal system. Let's move on to the most important one, which is cardiovascular system. What is cardiovascular system? Cardiovascular system is the one which is made up of the heart. So the location of the heart is actually mediastinum, between the lungs and behind the sternum. So if you see in between, two lungs, okay, in the left side, okay, in the left side, the heart will be little in left side, in between the sternum. Okay, behind the sternum, the heart will be present. So its shape is cone-shaped, or for an adult human being, a heart is the shape of his or her wrist. Okay, it is weigh around 230 to 350 gram in adults. It have three layers, which is epicardium, myocardium and endocardium. Epicardium is the most outer and protective layer. Myocardium is the thick muscular layer, contraction and generates pumping force for the heart. Endocardium is the inner layer which lining the chambers. Now in heart we have 4 chambers. Okay, so in heart we have 4 chambers. Okay, right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. Okay, so these are the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. So right atrium will receive the deoxygenated blood and push it to the ventricle. Okay, via the superior and inferior vena cava. The right ventricle will actually pumps the deoxygenated blood to the lungs via the pulmonary artery. The left atrium will receive the oxygenated blood from the lungs via the pulmonary veins, and left ventricle lastly will pumps the oxygenated blood to the body via aorta. Let's discuss this. First, what will happen? The deoxygenated blood will come, okay, through the superior and inferior vena cava. It's coming into the right atrium. Now where it will go? From here it will pass, okay? It will pass and it will go to the lungs. From lungs the oxygenated blood will come and commit to the right ventricle. Okay, so these are the main chambers. Now we have valves also, atrioventricular valves and seminal valves. 2 types of valves. Atrioventricular valves are tricuspid or right valves and mitral valves, which will prevent the backflow into the arteria. Then semilunar valves, which is actually the pulmonary aortic valves, which will prevent the backflow into the ventricles. So let's see about the circulation of blood, how actually it happened. Okay, so here it should not be any confusion. Okay, circulation of blood is very important. So from the first we will see about the pulmonary circulation, and then we will see the systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation, from the right ventricle, okay, of the heart, the deoxygenated blood will come to the pulmonary artery. From pulmonary artery it will travel to the lungs, collect the oxygen, and the pulmonary veins will throw it to the left atrium of the heart. Now for the systemic circulation, what will happen? From the left ventricle, okay, it will collect the oxygenated blood, it will move forward to the aorta. From the aorta it will come to the body tissues. From the body tissues it will move on to the superior vena cava, and it will reach to the right atrium again. Okay, so this will be continuing. So this is the circulation of blood. This is very, very important. Okay, The next is cardiac cycle and regulation of heart rate. How it happened? Cardiac cycle is actually the sequence of events of one heartbeat or contraction and relaxation. One contraction and relaxation together is called as cardiac cycle. So first what will happen? Arterial systole, which is arteria contract and push the blood into the ventricles. Then ventricular systole, which is actually the ventricles will contract and push the blood into the pulmonary artery and aorta. Then diastole. Diastole is actually to contract the blood, artery and ventricle. It will relax, the chambers will fill up with the blood. Okay. Then regulation of heart rate. How it will happen? The control by the autonomic nervous system. Okay. So the sympathetic stimulation will increase the heart rate via the neuroepinephrine. Okay. It is also called as a heart marker. Okay. Sorry. Cardiovascular system or heart marker. Okay. Physical markers. Next, parasympathetic system or vagus nerve will help to decrease the heart rate. Hormones like adrenaline can also increase the heart rate. The baroreceptors or the chromoreceptors in arteries detect the blood pressure and chemical changes, adjusting the heart rate accordingly. Now we'll talk about the cardiac output and stroke volume. What is cardiac output? This can come for 1 mark or 2 mark. Okay. So cardiac output is actually volume of blood pumped into the heart, okay, adult heart, per minute. Formula is CO equals to, or cardiac output equals to heart rate into stroke volume. What is stroke volume? It is the volume of blood pumped by one ventricle per heartbeat. Next is blood pressure regulation. So what is blood pressure? It is the force of blood against the arterial walls. The regulation include neural control, hormonal control and local control. Neural control will be including baroreceptors in aorta or carotid defects pressure, which will send the signals to medulla and adjust the HR and vessel diameters. The hormonal control will do the renin and angiotensin aldosterone system or RAAS, which will increase the volume and the pressure of the blood. Then adrenaline, noradrenaline, again they will increase the heart rate and vasoconstriction. Antidiuretic hormones promotes the water retention in the blood. Lastly, local control will be done by the vasodilation and vasoconstriction in the tissues, regulates the blood flow. Now, as we know about the heart and all and circulatory system, let's discuss about the blood. Okay, so what is blood? Blood is actually blood and lymphatic system. So blood is actually the liquid. Okay, it is a liquid which is travel through our body and provide oxygen. Okay, and helps to carry forward nutrients to the from the body to the other tissues. Okay, so that is blood. So how it is made? It is made up with plasma, okay, and formed elements. Now what is plasma? Plasma in blood, 55% of the weight is there for the plasma. Okay, so if 100 ml blood is there, 1000 ml blood is there, there will be 550 ml of plasma. Okay, this is just an example. So plasma contains water, proteins like water and proteins like albumin, globulin and fibrinogen, including electrolytes and different kind of nutrients. Then form elements, which is 45%, including RBC or red blood cell, which will helps in oxygen transport, WBC or white blood cell, which helps in the immunity, and platelets, which involve in the clotting of the blood. Now functions. Come to function, it will help for transport oxygen, carbon dioxide, different kind of nutrients, regulation like temperature, pH, water, and protection like clotting and immunity. It also includes coagulation process. So now what is coagulation? If in somewhere in our arm or somewhere there is a cut, okay, and blood is flowing. So if coagulation process is not there, all of our body blood will will flush out, right? So for that we have platelets in our body, okay, and platelets will help and break down the protein and try to clot or try to coagulate to stop the blood flow. So it is for that the vascular spasm will happen where the platelet will be plugged, the fibrin mesh will be there formation, and the clot retraction and repair will start. Okay, so this is about the blood. Next is lymphatic system and lymph nodes. So lymphatic system is what? It is the network of vessel which will transporting lymph and drains excess fluid, transport fast and immune defense. Okay, the lymph nodes are actually bean shaped filtered lymph which will trap the pathogen, contains the lymphocyte and initiate the immune response. Lymphocytes are also white blood cells. Okay, it comes under a category of white blood cell. The function of RBC. Okay, so what is the function? And it will also do the functions of RBC. It will carry, and the function of RBC is mainly carry oxygen and carbon dioxide, maintain the acid base balance and contribute to the blood viscosity and efficient circulation. Let's talk about the respiratory system. So respiratory system we can part it in two types, okay, upper respiratory tract and lower respiratory tract. What upper respiratory tract include? It includes nose, nostrils, larynx, pharynx, trachea. Okay, whereas the lower include the trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, lung, alveoli. Okay, so upper respiratory tract will filter, warms and humidifies the air, whereas the lower respiratory system actually conducts the air and allow the gas exchange, the CO2 and O2 exchange inside our body. Next, the and most important one is lung. Okay, it is a paired organ in the thoracic cavity. The right lung have 3 lobes and left one have 2. The right one is bigger than the left one. And lastly, we have diaphragm and intercostal muscle, which will main muscle of the respiration. Diaphragm helps to push the lungs. Okay, and intercostal muscle is in between the ribs. Okay, next is respiratory system mechanism. Okay, respiration mechanism. So what is the mechanism? The physical mechanism is including inhalation and exhalation. How it will happen? Say this is a diaphragm will contract and move upward. Okay, so it will push the lungs. Okay, so diaphragm will contract and flatten it downwards. Okay, and the external intercostal muscle will lift the ribs upward and outward. Okay, upward and outward. So the thoracic cavity volume will increase and lungs pressure will decrease. Okay, so air, what it will do? Air will flow inside or into the lungs. Now in the exhalation or expiration, the diaphragm will be relaxed. Now the volume will move upwards, the rib will move down again, the thoracic cavity volume will be decreased. So the air will flow outside. Okay, so this is the main mechanism. Okay, in the gas exchange, it occurs in the alveoli via the diffusion. Okay, oxygen moves from the alveoli to the blood and carbon dioxide moves from the blood to the alveoli and exhaled. So how the regulation of breathing happen? So first, the respiratory centers, which is located in medulla oblongata and pons, will actually control the rate and tape. The chemoreceptors like central, like medulla, detect the CO2 and pH of the blood. Okay, peripheral, aortic and carotid bodies will detect the oxygen level in the blood. The voluntary control like cerebral cortex can temporarily alter breathing, like while speaking and holding the breath. Other factors like exercise, emotion, fever and at altitude also can modify the breathing rate. Now respiratory system. In respiratory system there are some important measurements also. Okay, in between tidal volume is very important. Okay, volume of the air which is inhaled or exhaled during a normal relaxed breath is called as tidal volume. Average adult tidal volume is 500. The important for assessing lung capacity and respiratory health. Why it is important? See, as an example I can say, if you access the chain smoker, maybe he can only breathe 300 ml of oxygen or 300 ml of air at a time. Okay, his lung capacity is very low. Whereas if you assess a very healthy man who have no problem with their lungs, okay, who have a good lungs, okay, they never smoke and all, and no affection, like not any affected lungs, okay, the health of the lungs are good, they can inhale and exhale up to 500 ml of air. Okay, so through the tidal volume we can actually see, or we can actually assess the lungs health. Okay, so this is about the respiratory system. Next, move on to the digestive system. So if we see the digestive system, it include our mouth cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, liver, gallbladder, large intestine, small intestine, rectum, anus, pancreas and all. Okay, so we have first the alimentary canal. What is alimentary canal? It from the mouth till to the anus, where the digestion part, okay, where the digestion part, like from consuming to expelling, okay, or to wash, or to move out the waste product from our body is happening, is called as the alimentary canal or alimentary tract. So it starts from the mouth, where the food will be taken, chewed and all. The bolus will be carried forward to the pharynx, from pharynx to esophagus, esophagus to stomach, where half of the digestion will, or 60% of the digestion will start, and from there the particles will start be absorbing in the blood. From there to small intestine to large intestine, and from large intestine whatever the waste product will be there, it will be moved forward to the rectum, and from the anus we will pass outside. Okay, so this is alimentary canal. It have accessory organs, okay, which are not exactly the main part, but it have to be involved in the digestion, okay, like liver, pancreas, gallbladder, salivary glands. Okay, what are the function? The function of the digestive system is ingestion, which is taking the food into the mouth, propulsion, which is swallowing, and peristalsis, which is the movement of food. Excuse me. Okay, so next is digestion, which is mechanical, like chewing and crunching and mixing with chemical enzyme. Then absorption, where the nutrients will be absorbed in the small intestine, and defecation, where the elimination of undigested foods at feces will occur. So this is the main function of the digestive system. Okay, now we will see the physiology of digestion and absorption. The digestion is actually have done for the carbohydrate, proteins and fats inside our digestive system. Carbohydrates will be broken down into monosaccharides by the amylase. The protein will be broken down to the amino acid by pepsin and protease. The fats will be emulsified the bile, digestive and lipase into fatty acid and glycerol. The absorption will happen mainly occur in the small intestine. The main function is simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion and active transport. Now in digestive system, the two main important support organs are liver and pancreas. Liver is the largest gland, okay, in the upper right abdomen. You can see it products bile, metabolize nutrients such as carbohydrate, protein, fat, detoxifies harmful substances, store glycogen, vitamins and minerals. Whereas in the pancreas, it located behind the stomach, it is actually have a exocrine function, okay, secretes the pancreatic juice containing digestive enzyme like amylase, lipase and protease. It also have the endocrine function, which secretes insulin and glucagon to regulate the blood glucose level. Next, move on to the urinary system. So urinary system have two pear-shaped, bean-shaped organs located in the retroperitoneal area. The outer cortex contains the renal corpuscle, which is including glomerulus and Bowman's capsule and convoluted tubules. The inner medulla contains the loop of Henle and collecting ducts. The renal pelvis is actually made for the collection of urine, ureter and bladder. The nephron is for the functional unit and it is 1 million per kidney. Okay. The components, what are the components of urinary systems are there? Kidney. There will be glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal tube, loop of Henle, distal tubule, and collecting ducts. Okay. So what is the main function of the urinary system? To excretion of metabolic waste such as urea and most importantly creatinine. Then osmoregulation maintains the water and electrolyte balance of our body, acid balance of our body, blood pressure regulation via the renin, and lastly hormone production like erythropoietin and activation of vitamin D. So now how urine will form we will see. First glomerular filtration, then tubular reabsorption and the reverse reabsorption. So in the glomerular filtration what will happen? The renal corpuscle, glomerulus and Bowman's capsule will be occurred. Okay, then the blood pressure will be forces the water in the small solute of Bowman capsule and it will filtrate. Okay, it will filtrate the water. The proteins and the blood cell will remain in the blood and the other waste product will be thrown to the urine. Okay, the tubular reabsorption occurs mainly in proximal tubule. Okay, okay, so in the proximal tubule and loop of Henle. Now the useful substance like glucose, amino acids, salts and water will be reabsorbed into the blood and then the other whatever will be left it will be pushed. Okay, and the reverse reabsorption will again happen where the reabsorption occurs in the filtered back into the blood and essential retained nutrients and water will be again throw it into the blood. Now it will move forward to the tubular secretion where waste like hydrogen and potassium ion drugs actively secreted into the tubules. The concentration of urines is actually occurs when collecting ducts under the ADH influence. Okay, and water reabsorbed and finally form the urine. This is also a very important question. Whichever I am marking very important, try to note that out. If you are not able to understand here also, you can go check the EasyNurse app. Just check the courses for the particular chapter. There will be particular videos where the teachers have explained very well in more detail. Okay, if you are not able to understand also, put a message in the community forum. We are very happy to help you. Okay, so let's move to the summary. So actually urinary system do filtration, reabsorption, secretion and concentration. Okay, so these are the four functions. Next is endocrine system. So endocrine system are the system who are actually secretes the hormones and all and controls the bodily function. The functions of insulins are lower, like one endocrine hormone is insulin. Okay, it lowered the blood glucose by promoting uptake and glucose into cells. It stimulates glycogen formation in liver and muscle. The thyroid hormone and their function thyroxine, T4 and T3 is increase the basal metabolic rate or BMR. It regulates the growth, development and energy metabolism. This is also very important. It can come for 2 marks question. Okay. Now role of hormone in metabolism, how it is important. For insulin, it promotes the glucose uptake, glycogen formation and fat storage. For the glucagon, it increases blood sugar by glycogen and break it down. Thyroid hormone, it increases the basal metabolic rate, stimulate carbohydrate, protein, fat metabolism. Cholesterol, it will stimulate the gluconeogenesis, protein breakdown and fat metabolism during the stress. And lastly adrenaline, which will increase the glucose and fatty acid into blood for energy during the flight or fight mode. Next is sensory organs. Sensory organs, there are 4 parts of sensory system. 5 parts. Okay, 5 organs have sensory parts. Okay, it includes our skin, tongue, ear, nose and eye. So for the ear, sometimes came the ear question. Okay, parts of the ear. So it have T part in the ear, outer, middle and inner. The outer part helps, outer part will actually collect the sound, which include pinna, external auditory canal and tympanic membrane. Medial ear will include the ossicles and Eustachian tube, which will amplify amplify the vibration. Then inner ear have cochlea, which will convert the vibration into the nerve impulses and send it to the brain. Semi circular canals and vestibules maintain the banals, and lastly auditory nerves, which will send the sound signals to the brain. Okay, so mechanism of hearing have different steps. First one, sound collection. Then it will move on towards the vibration of the tympanic membrane. It will move forward to the middle ear, where the micellar incussion staple will vibrate and send the impulses, amplify the vibration and transmit them into oval window of the inner ear, which will move to cochlear fluid movement, and that will stimulate the hair cells. Okay, and then the nerve impulses will transmitted to the brain via the auditory nerve. Okay, next come reproductive system. The female reproductive organs, this question have came 2 to 3 times. Okay, so internal organs of female reproductive system include ovaries, fallopian tube, uterus, cervix and vagina. So ovaries are what? These are ovaries. Okay, so ovaries will produce eggs and hormones like estrogen, progesterone. Fallopian tubes, which will transport the ovum and site of the fertilization. Okay, fallopian tube. Then uterus, which is a muscular organ. Okay, muscular organ and support pregnancy and menstrual periods. Okay, then cervix, which will connect the uterus to the vagina and secrete the mucus. Then lastly vagina, which is actually the birth canal, and it will also receive the sperms. Now in external organs we have labia, clitoris, mons, pubis, vestibules, which will protect and support the reproductive function. The main function of the reproductive system is reproduction, hormone secretion and childbirth. Lastly, let's discuss the physiology of menstrual cycle. So if we see, menstrual cycle is actually a 20 days regulated menstruation, which will happen in the female, okay, because of estrogen and progesterone. So now menstruation have 4 divided part: menstruation, proliferate phase, ovulation phase and secretory phase. The menstrual phase will be staying from 1 to 5 days, okay, where endometrium will be shed and bleeding will start. Follicular or proliferative phase, which will stay for 6 to 14 days, where the follicles will mature, endometrium will thicken, ovulation around 14 days will occur. Lastly, luteal or secretory phase, which will happen in 15th to 28th day, where the corpus luteum will secrete the progesterone and endometrium is ready for implantation. This is the main phase where again the endometrium will start thickening and it will be again ready for the menstrual phase. If no fertilization, then hormone levels will drop and menstruation will restart. So this is the physiology of menstrual cycle. So I have discussed all of the important topics. Okay, this will definitely come in exam, I promise. Okay, so if you have any other confusion, okay, or you want to study any other topic also for your exam, it is already available in the Easy Nurse app. Go check in the Play Store, go check in the App Store for the iPhones and all. Okay, you will be able to see, go and purchase the app and you are happy to use. Okay, thank you for the session. We'll see you in the next session. Okay, be just concentrated for your exams. Okay, best of wishes for your exams. Thank you for the session. See you in the next session. Till then, keep learning and keep exploring with Easy Nurse. Thank you.